Hello, this is Kirk and you're listening to On Purpose. This podcast is really a work of passion for me. I love this topic. I love doing the research and the reading and synthesizing it into a perspective that I then get to talk about. If you love it as well and are finding it valuable, then there's some really simple ways that you can participate in making it possible to continue creating quality episodes. One of them is to leave a review or comment on whatever podcast app you're listening to, whether it's my YouTube channel or iTunes or any of those places. It really is one of the best ways to help other people find and enjoy the podcast. Another way that you can help is to go to kirkwayman.com. This is where you can find more content related to this work that I do. I have 3 other podcasts there, a blog, and I'm developing an array of content to help you in your journey of finding purpose and meaning in life. At kirkwayman.com, you can subscribe to an email list and get fresh content delivered right into your inbox, including new episodes of this podcast. You can also become a patron of the show by clicking the support button. That'll take you to patreon.com, where you can make a very small monthly contribution or, kind of get carried away if you want to. But the thing is, every little bit helps. It all helps me create quality episodes for all of us. Thanks. In order to live on purpose, you have to be able to hold 2 positions simultaneously in the story of your life. One is a character within the story. The other, and far more difficult, is the author of the story. One of my biggest clients had just lost their largest contract. We thought they were in a pretty good position on retaining this work, but a national competitor, much larger than my client, had won the bid. It was devastating. 70% of the business disappeared in one day. Earlier that day, the president of the company had made it clear in a passing comment that they really couldn't afford to continue working with me if they didn't get this contract. By the end of the day, I believed I was about to lose this piece of business. Why am I telling this story? Not because of the impact it had on my client. That was bad enough. But I'm telling you this story today because of the impact it had on me. You see, my wife and I had spent most of our marriage arguing about money. We had been working on the underlying issues for years, and we'd made a lot of progress, but this loss of income was about to trigger an old fight all over again. Or was it? As I packed my bag on the end of that Friday to head home for the weekend, I subconsciously, or you might say I barely consciously, started rehearsing the script in my head. The story that I was going to tell about the impact of this loss of business on my family. I was rehearsing the way I was going to tell my wife what had happened, how we were unprepared for it, and how we should have been prepared for it, how we should be living our lives differently so that something like this wouldn't affect us. I was gearing up for the fight. I was letting fear run the show. I was going to make it her fault, because blame is one of the easiest ways to discharge pain and the failure that I felt. My office was on the 2nd floor, and as I left my office and I turned to walk down the flight of stairs, I heard myself. I saw what I was about to do, and I thought to myself, why am I picking this fight? Why am I choosing to ruin the weekend? What if this fear and this story I'm telling isn't true? What if it isn't helpful? I reorganized it in my head. I changed the narrative. I decided I would just tell my wife the facts of what happened. I decided I wouldn't blame her because I didn't want to pick that fight. I knew where that led, and it wasn't good. It wasn't fun. It wasn't helpful. I went home and I did that. I told her the facts. It was sad, and we went ahead and had our weekend. Early in the following week, I had a regularly scheduled meeting with the owner of the company who had just lost this big contract. And I was sure I was going to hear, "Thank you for all the help. It's been great working together, but we just can't afford you anymore." That's what I'd been prepared for all weekend. It's the only possible outcome I could imagine. It's the only story I could tell. I got online, clicked into my Zoom meeting, and I heard something entirely different. I heard the owner of the company say to me, "Thank God we have you. We need you now more than ever." I'm not sure how I responded. I don't know what I said next. I'm sure I was scraping my jaw off the floor because that was a story I had never considered. We ended up working together for the next year and a half as we rebuilt certain aspects of his company and reoriented towards different sales opportunities. I didn't lose the revenue. All the things that I had been afraid of didn't come to pass. I didn't need to ruin my weekend. I told my wife the facts, but I had no other possible meaning except this is the end of this piece of business. And that wasn't true. And I learned in that moment to ask a great question. What if the story I'm telling myself isn't true? What if there's a better, more helpful story that I could write using the same set of facts? There was one moment in that whole thing that caused a different outcome from what had been a typical argument that my wife and I would have engaged in. As I walked down the stairs on that Friday night, I saw myself. What does that mean? How do you see yourself? I saw me. You see, the idea of self is something that we talk about all the time. We talk about the self as though we understand it, but it's way more complex than we think. We use various pronouns to describe different parts of ourself or different ways of holding ourself. Imagine this. Hold on. Just think for a second. Imagine you get caught doing something that you're not super proud of. It's kind of embarrassing. And you'll say to the person, "Well, that wasn't me." Well, who said that wasn't me? I did. So I said that wasn't me. Well, what is this I and what is this me? And it represents the dual positions that we can hold within ourselves. I saw me. The me in that sentence is a character that's sitting inside of a storyline. The character is very good at telling and living out that particular story. This character has been handed a script, and they've learned the script over time. They've become masterful at delivering it. They know all the lines. They know the timing and the rhythm, and when this person says that, then they respond in this way. But who wrote the script? And it turns out I did. I saw me. Me is the character of the story. I am the author of it. And any time you find yourself stuck inside of a script, repeating the same lines, having the same fight, coming to the same conclusions over and over again, you are the character. You see, it's only a character that can get stuck in a story because characters can never write themselves out of the story they're in. Harry Potter is stuck inside the Harry Potter universe. It is only J.K. Rowling that could write Harry Potter out of it. And in fact, J.K. Rowling can do whatever she wants to Harry Potter. She's the author. In this case, there is a way in which I am a character in my story, and my character can get so frustrated, fed up, stuck. But what we have to realize is that this script that we've been handed was handed to us by us. That I literally came to all the conclusions and wrote down all the dialogue and created this character who then navigates through the world with this script. And what if the script isn't true? What if it isn't helpful? You see, truth is one of those words that's also very complicated. There's all kinds of categories of truth or ways of understanding truth. One of the ways might be something you could call the facts. But you see, facts without meaning are boring. We collect facts, we organize them together in certain ways, and we create meaning out of them. Meaning and purpose. We create that. We decide that. That's the story that we tell using our facts. Now, all authors have sources. We don't write these stories alone. We draw from resources and family histories and religious structures and worldviews and philosophies, and we have all kinds of help writing stories. But we have to understand or recognize we've taken all of that and turned it into a narrative. the story we tell about ourselves. And then we become that character in that story and we live our life. And if you want to create meaningful change in a significant way in your life, one of the things that you have to evaluate, it's not the only one, but one of them, is your position as author and your author's willingness to rewrite that story. The simplest story that we tell ourselves, the simplest one that we have to look at. And when I mean simple, I don't mean to say it's easy. I mean to say it's obvious. Is the story that says, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of love and connection. That's a story that you tell. To untell it, you have to tell a different story, like, I am enough. I am worthy of love and connection. And here's the thing. Whichever story, whichever one of those you're telling, I would suggest to you that you can't prove either of them. You cannot prove whether or not you are enough. You cannot prove that you are not enough. You believe it. It's a truth held in the form of meaning, not in the form of a fact. But we act as though it's a fact. We act as though that is a concrete, irrevocable, unassailable, permanent reality. And it's not. It's a belief. It's a story that you tell about yourself, and you give it to your character, who then lives their life as though it's concrete and cannot ever be changed. But when you take the position of author, an author can do whatever they want. They can write any story they want, like, I am enough. I am worthy of love and connection. We take our facts and we wrap them in meaning. So let's say that you're invited to give a speech somewhere, and you give the speech and it doesn't go well. You don't make your points well. You kind of flub the ending, and the applause is tepid at best. Well, there's a fact there. The applause wasn't significant. The speech wasn't great. The feedback was that could have been better. That happened. But what does it mean? Is it evidence that you're not worthy of love and connection, that you will never amount to anything? Or is it evidence that you need to work harder on this craft, but that you actually have something to say, you just didn't get it out right, and you're going to go back to the drawing board and work it again until you become good at the craft of giving a speech? But it has no impact on whether you're enough or not. You see, you carry dual roles in your own story. You are a character in it. There's no doubt about that. But you're also the author of it. And when you take responsibility for that position, you have a new capacity, a new sense of power in the world that allows you to re-author your own life. And yes, again, you do have sources that you are drawing from. But the author gets to choose those sources. The author gets to look at where the source material of their life story is coming from. And if they don't like it, get better sources. To go on the journey of finding purpose and meaning in life, a purpose and meaning in life worth living for, I've suggested that you have to go deeper than purpose and meaning. And the first step in that process is to step into the role of author of your own story. You have to learn how to separate the facts from the meaning, and only an author can do that. Because you can't change the facts of your life, but you can change meaning, and by doing so, impact purpose.